Hello, Contrarians, listeners, watchers, subscribers. Here we are with the latest warm up. This is for the lowest point of Bogdanovich's career. Peter Bogdanovich hates this movie, which I think automatically puts it at the bottom of any Bogdanovich list, whether you like it or not. I think that definitely when your movie is 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, general reaction to it is negative, and the guy who wrote and directed it says that it's the worst thing he ever made, then you're in trouble.
And the star of it also says they just wanted to do it to work with the director, and then it was just like a disaster.
Yes. Illegally Yours. It's a movie that's not that hard to find. It's on Tubi right now, so you could go and watch it, or you could just listen to our episode. We have Contrarians Corner where we praise it because it's so rotten. We praise it, and then Real Talk where we get into our
what I
feelings.
believe is a DVD rip of it too is what's available on Tubi. We talk about that in the episode, but it's 4:3 ratioed and it's full screen, as they used to call those in the DVD days, and the transfers. I don't think it's a film transfer. This movie, it's not been given the Criterion treatment of a 4K transfer from the original negative. And Julia, I'm not holding my breath on that happening either.
I don't know, man. It would be a shame if when they finally release, you know how they have like the Kurosawa collection, and it's like every single movie. Then they do the Bogdanovich collection, and it's all his movies, but not Illegally Yours. They like take that one out.
There is a precedent in the Criterion collection for bad movies or like movies of camp. So never say never, I suppose.
The 3-pack of Illegally Yours. What's that? The one that Roger Ebert wrote, the sequel to
Beyond the Planet of the Apes, Beyond the Valley of the Dolls is the name of the movie.
Yes, and probably something by
John Waters or something.
John Waters, yeah. It could happen. Start your writing campaign. But in the meantime, you have our episode on Illegally Yours, where we do our best to get through the plot, and then you'll have this warm-up video where we give you some more quotes. It's a very, very shallow pool. It's like a puddle of review on Rotten Tomatoes. So we just went to Letterboxd. We got some not fresh, I guess, positive and negative quotes from Rotten Tomatoes. So let's get into that. Then we'll do some trivia. And in between that, we'll do the Josh Gad Minute. So we're going to start, Alex, with Matt Stetchel, who watched Illegally Yours May 15th, 2021, and gave it 4 stars and a heart. He says, to be fair, he starts with, "Don't get me wrong, this is not what anyone in their right mind would call a good movie. It's got a ridiculously convoluted premise that just keeps going around and around, as well as an incredibly miscast leading man. As the main character we're supposed to be rooting for through this would-be screwball farce. Rob Lowe was clearly directed to just ape Ryan O'Neal's performance from What's Up Doc, and it doesn't quite gel with Lowe's natural on-screen rhythms. Rob Lowe does not do neurotic or uptight very well, or like at all. However, and I'm almost ashamed to admit this, I absolutely loved a lot of the quippy, fast-paced dialogue that runs throughout. It's a very gabby, dialogue-heavy movie, and I heart it for that." You don't just heart it, Matt. You gave it 4 stars.
Sounds like you have a heart on for the movie.
Did you see What's Up Doc? It's available on our Patreon channel. So if you join the Patreon, we tackle some other Bogdanovich movies there. But did you feel watching this movie that Rob Lowe was trying to be Ryan O'Neal in What's Up Doc?
No, that's kind of funny that his main point of contention is the lead that was cast for it, whereas you and I were both kind of complimentary about Rob Lowe's kind of infectious charm in this movie. It's not a good movie, but he clearly was kind of going for it, and he knew the assignment, as the kids say. So I didn't, Paper Moon or Nickelodeon or
yeah, it never crossed my mind.
What's Up Doc? Obviously, What's Up Doc's more comparable because they're both in the screwball genre. I didn't get that.
Yeah, I felt that, like you just said, I felt that Rob Lowe was trying to do right by Bogdanovich. He's not sleepwalking through this one, which I wouldn't say that other members of the cast are, but he seems really like he really believes in this project. I mean, I could be projecting, but I think that is infectious. how much he's putting into it. And yeah, it never even crossed my mind to compare him to Ryan O'Neal in any of the Bogdanovich movies we've seen. Next, Michael Eternity watched it April 22nd, 2017, and gave it 1 star. It says, every decade in the career of Peter Bogdanovich has been an eclectic grab bag of surprises. Yes, we've been learning that. He works with the same actors a lot and revisits pet themes, but you never know what to expect he'll make next. Yet none were as collectively inscrutable as his trifecta of projects from the 1980s. The esoteric, pseudo-autobiographical They All Laughed in 81, uncharacteristic studio tear-jerking crowd pleaser Mask in 85, and this fucking thing in 88. They All Laughed and Mask also will be covered. Coming soon to the aforementioned Patreon channel. This fucking thing in 88, though. We really, I'm trying to remember, I think it might have been in the What's Up Doc episode that we stepped back and said and admired how he went from Targets to Last Picture Show to What's Up Doc to Paper Moon, which is an amazing range of movies and genres, all 4 critically acclaimed. So,
can you imagine being a director and those are your first 4 movies?
What do you do next? I had the privilege of watching Jackie Brown at the Paramount a couple nights ago, Alex, and that thought also came back to me because I was like, there was more of a gap in between, but Tarantino, Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Jackie Brown, and I know Jackie Brown did not set the world on fire the way that it would eventually do. Like, obviously, it's more recognized now than it was at the time of its release.
So good, yeah.
But it's still, that's a hell of an opener.
That's what we talk about in our 2-parter for Kill Bill. The whole idea behind that was like, that's all he had done up until that point. So there was a reason, there was like anticipation, and also this isn't about Kill Bill, but that's what comes along with the territory of starting your career that strong. And that's the guy who targets Last Picture Show, What's Up Doc, Paper Moon to come to this is riveting. In a sense, I guess you would say.
Yeah, and I will on those ones we talk about. They All Laughed. I haven't dug into Mask yet, but some of the behind the scenes of these productions, and I guess Bogdanovich's personal life actually would probably explain a little more of the wild upswings and downswings, I guess, in the quality of his movies, or like the type of movie he's making, and we'll get into that then. But I think that having a troubled personal life it can possibly affect your output as an artist. And I think he was riding high in those first 4 movies, and then life started getting really complicated around the time of Daisy Miller, and then it just started going up and down. Still, he is a guy, as we praised.
Probably shouldn't have shacked up with Sybil Shepherd. I think that might have.
Oh, dude!
I mean, I say that, but I've seen Last Picture Show, and Jesus.
If you think that's the most complicated thing he did regarding his love life, hold on, because it gets worse and it gets more complex. But I think that we praised in one recent recording where it's like, whether you like them or not, at least they're movies that are basically original. Last Picture Show is based on a book, but still, it's not your standard fare when it comes to a director. As a director has his voice, and he just followed what he wanted to do.
Yeah, I mean, Paper Moon's based on a novel too, so.
That's right.
And Last Picture Show.
Yeah, that's. Yeah. But still, it's not. I think that when you step back and look at his filmography, for the most part, it was just Peter Bogdanovich's, and then whatever the title was. Mm-hmm. He's like, I own it. It's Peter Bogdanovich's. I think it's like Rob Lowe and Peter Bogdanovich's Illegally Yours.
Yeah, I think this movie kind of marks an interesting place in Peter Bogdanovich's run, because after this he made Texasville, which I still haven't seen, but was not a success, and he just had a few more movies after that. And prior to this was Mask, which was obviously very critically revered. So I think this kind of not the death knell, but this is like this movie closes a book in a certain aspect.
Yeah, I think that we have some movies in the horizon on the main feed and probably in the Patreon too, where they probably received well, but never to the point where they said he's back.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's kind of sad, but at the end, I mean, the legacy stands. So.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Next, Joe watch Illegally Yours on May 17th, 2018, gave it 1 star. Says, I found Illegally Yours in a VHS bargain bin in high school and became strangely obsessed with it. A lot of movies are bad, poorly plotted, boring, unfunny, etc. But this one crossed over into being so bad that it was completely fascinating. Why the castle? Why the absurdly stereotypical Canadian accent? Why this movie cover? Why Rob Lowe? How did this happen? It transcends badness into something that is almost like abstract art, a slapdash canvas of every 80s era rom-com cliche ripped up and pasted together by aliens. It's even more inexplicable when you consider it was helmed by the same guy that directed Paper Moon and The Last Picture Show. In any case, I've seen it at least a dozen times, and it remains my favorite 1-star movie of all time.
That's a special thing, your favorite
Yes.
1-star movie of all time.
Yes.
Yeah, we talk about it in the episode, but for those who haven't seen it, it might be the thumbnail for this, but the poster for this is the may have started in the late 70s, but definitely prevailed through the 80s and 90s. It's the woman you just see from the waist down with her legs, and Rob Lowe's between her legs, like, whoa. The one I always go to, of course, is Kingpin. The poster of that was Randy Quaid and Woody Harrelson between a set of legs. So a classic for children of the video store era, a very recognizable trope. However, has really nothing to do with the premise of this movie, or it would certainly mislead one to think Rob Lowe's, going to be, I don't know, taking upskirt shots or something in this. But
well, the funniest thing, and I don't think I got to mention it in the episode, Alex, is that depending on, if you go through your Google search for the Illegally Yours poster, sometimes he's wearing the glasses, and there's another version where he's not wearing the glasses. It's like, no, let's make him sexy in this one. Let's have him take the glasses off.
They were undecided.
Yeah, it doesn't make a difference. And for the record, he wears the glasses almost through the entire movie. It's actually towards the end of the movie, one of the glasses, one of the lenses falls off, and it's a big deal. Next, Amber23, watch Illegally Yours on June 2nd, 2023. Gave it 2.5 stars and a heart. Says, who knew that a Rob Lowe comedy directed by Peter Bogdanovich would have a connection to the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise? Yeah. Kim Myers and Ira Hayden both appear. Myers was Lisa in Freddy's Revenge, and Ira Hayden was Will in Dream Warriors. I really like the St. Augustine setting. I think Rob Lowe does a good job of playing Richard Dice, a nerdy young juror who has long been in love with a woman played by Colleen Camp, accused of attempted murder. Most people did not like this, including the director himself. I don't think it's too bad. I looked at the writing credits and found that 3 different people had a hand in writing this one. I need to see more of Bogdanovich's work before I compare films, but I did enjoy this more than She's Funny That Way. She's Just Funny That Way, my least favorite of him so far. She's Just Funny That Way, I think it's our closer. It's the last Bogdanovich movie we have planned for the summer. And it was his last movie, you're right. But I think it's funny. Can you imagine like coming to Peter Bogdanovich, watching She's Just Funny That Way and this one? You're like, I don't know about this guy.
Yeah. And you're like, all right, let me watch this Last Picture Show. Or like Targets is what you move on to next.
Yeah. Hey, Targets is free. Let me check this one out. I don't think Illegally Yours is representative of Peter Bogdanovich's talent as a filmmaker at all. Whether you like it or not, it's like you can like it, but it's not what I would call a Bogdanovich movie. It's an outlier. It's a movie that makes you scratch your head and go, really? He did this? It's and I referenced this in the episode. It's Bogdanovich's Aloha. Like Cameron Crowe made Aloha, and you wouldn't know that it was from the same guy that did Jerry Maguire, Almost Famous. Pretty much any of his other movies. Elizabethtown, even.
Yeah, and shout out, they got the Kim Myers name drop in there. She, next to Rob Lowe, may be the best performance in this movie because I think she understands also what was at stake here. Starting with Freddy's Revenge, and we referred her repeatedly, and it's like, it's not just us, that's like the thing. She's not Meryl Streep. She looked a lot like Meryl Streep, but she... I think is most known at this point in her life for Freddy's Revenge.
She has to be. That movie has grown in, much like some other Bogdanovich movies. Like it's grown in adoration, I guess, as time went on. The kid, Ira Hayden, I think you said it was the same year that he did Dream Warriors and then he did Illegally Yours?
It was the year before. So he, back-to-back, worked with Patricia Arquette and then Rob Lowe. So.
And then I don't remember who directed Dream Warriors, but it's a known director. It's
Chuck Russell.
Yeah. Chuck Russell, then Bogdanovich. It has to be a letdown, or I don't know. I mean, I don't know how they feel. Like, hopefully, they just get a chuckle out of it. To go from even though it's a revered horror franchise, and Dream Warriors is certainly known as one of the best, if not the best entry in the franchise. You would think that as an actor, it's a huge step up to suddenly next year be in a Peter Bogdanovich movie.
Yeah.
And then it turns out to be the most reviled Peter Bogdanovich movie he ever made.
Well, at least I still got that sweet Dream Warriors money.
Yes. Yeah. Good. Do good with those residuals, Ira. We're going to close with Thumb. Not Thumb York, although maybe. I don't know. Watch Illegally Yours, January 8th, 2024. It's fairly recently. Gave it 2 stars and says it's a career low point for several people, Peter Bogdanovich and Dante Spinotti in particular, and it's a profoundly annoying movie. But about 25 minutes into watching Illegally Yours, a kind of Stockholm syndrome sets in. I found myself starting to admire Rob Lowe's full-on commitment to his dippy character's asinine slapstick and the movie's unrepentant devotion to incredibly dumb gags like the alligator mud. I had an inexplicably good time, but also wouldn't recommend this flick to my worst enemy.
Fair.
The alligator mud thing was funny, I guess. Funny enough. I mean, it's just in the background. It's pretty harmless.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it to my worst enemy. I also wouldn't not recommend it. I wouldn't warn anybody against it. I'd be like, hey, this is just a very 80s comedy. My warning would be don't think you're going to watch
them on what they're getting into.
Exactly. You just tell them this is lower your expectations. Rob, lower your expectations.
Ew.
And just know what you're getting into. And it's just, as in the context of Bogdanovich movies, in the context of what we've been doing this summer, it's certainly a dip. But if somebody wants to watch, if you like Rob Lowe, you're going to have a good time. There's a lot of Rob Lowe in this movie, and he's running around. He's in drag for about 10 minutes. And,
getting into all kinds of sticky situations.
Yeah. I
pretends to have a gun at one point.
Yes, it's true. In the gamut of Rob Lowe movies, I don't think that you can get that picky. He has some really good stuff, but it's also,
he's not Chris Traeger here, but it's not terrible.
Exactly.
Stop pooping.
Anyway, those are the quotes, Alex. Before you go to your trivia, let's put Josh Gad in this thing. Let's do the Josh Gad minute.
I thought this one was pretty easy because my immediate go-to is just aping the trope from Love and Other Drugs and just replacing Ira Hedden with Josh Gad as Rob Lowe's younger, affable brother.
100%. It's that role is written for Josh Gad, and it would. I think the kid Ira, he does fine. You can tell that he's greener than some of the people surrounding him. Mm-hmm. A lot of his scenes take place at the same time that his mom is in the scene, and it's like what's the name of the mom? Who's that?
Jessica James. The actress.
Jessica James. Yeah, Jessica James is great, and so you can tell a seasoned actress versus a guy that's still coming into his own. But I think Josh Gad would take that character and really elevate him to where he'll be able to really.
The record store scene would probably be a bit funnier because Gad, the facial expressions, and could have him slip and fall at some point. Before.
Yeah. Now retroactively, you could just absolutely change history and also put Josh Gad in Dream Warriors. Now you've got yourself a.
Larry Fishburne and Josh Gad sharing the screen.
Yep.
I'm in.
No contest. Then it becomes the best Nightmare on Elm Street movie ever.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, well, AI, you're probably listening and you're already working on it. So just hit us up. Send us a link when it's ready. That was an easy Josh Gad minute. There's not even second option. Alex, let's go to trivia.
All right. Well, much of the interesting story around this movie surrounds its actual filming versus when it was released. We go into that in great detail in the episode, so check that out for that. It collected dust for quite a while before they were like, all right, we got to get this out. Had a budget of $13 million, a box office return of less than $300,000. It was released on May 13th of 1988. We also go into detail in the episode what it was released up against and how that other movie fared. If you caught that date in May 13th, movies come out on a Friday and it was the late 80s, I think you can guess where that's going. So more discussion of that in the episode itself. Now, from what there is and respect to trivia, we talk about it a fair amount in the episode. So I kind of had to dig a little deeper to find something to share here and discuss. And I found something in the form of an article from staugustine.com. It looks like the St. Augustine Record, local newspaper there. This is a story from April 10th of 2022, titled Flashback to 1987. St. Augustine residents share memories of filming of Rob Lowe's movie Illegally Yours.
It's a
So
Rob Lowe movie.
it is no longer Peter Bogdanovich's. For 3 months in 1987, much of St. Augustine was transformed into the back lot of a big-name Hollywood studio. More than 3 decades later, locals here still talk about the filming of Illegally Yours, starring Rob Lowe and directed by the late Peter Bogdanovich, which turned the streets of downtown St. Augustine into potential chances for celebrity sightings and residents into would-be stars hoping to be chosen as extras. This is not exclusive to this movie. This is a tale as old as time. A small town gets taken over for a movie to be shot in, and the whole city becomes a buzz.
Yep.
Biggest difference being this was in the 80s when movie stars actually existed, and the whole idea of, like, movies being special was still in the air.
And they were actually shot in small towns instead of a backlot studio with a green screen.
Yes. On April 9th of 1987, 35 years ago this week, crews wrapped up 3 months of filming in the city. The film was was a campy screwball comedy that wasn't particularly a hit at the box office. Bogdanovich later would say it was the worst film he ever made. Still, for local residents, the movie was kind of a love letter to the city and the sights it captured, from the beach dunes of Villano Beach to the Castillo de San Marcos National Monument. The story casts Lowe, uncharacteristically wearing nerdy glasses, as a college dropout who returns to his hometown, referred to properly as St. Augustine in the movie, to get his act together. Sorry, wrong emphasis there. In the process, a series of comic mishaps take place, including Lowe's character doing jury duty for the murder trial of his childhood crush, played by Colleen Camp. The madcap adventure finds the cast members running all over downtown St. Augustine in search of incriminating evidence and solid alibis. There's some really cool pictures here, too, from behind the scenes that I guess this newspaper had access to. The city was bustling with excitement over its brush with fame, and residents' experiences rubbing elbows with the stars, be it as a housekeeper hired to tend to the house Lowe was renting on the beach, or selling Melissa Gilbert, Lowe's girlfriend at the time, a souvenir t-shirt at a store on St. George Street. It was the biggest thing to happen in St. Augustine since the Civil Rights Movement and Martin Luther King Jr., said Henry Russo, a staff reporter for The Record at the time. That's
the 2 high points in St. Augustine history.
The Civil Rights Movement and Illegally Yours. Hundreds were hired as extras for a number of scenes in the film. Dawn Marie Peterson and the rest of her family, mom, dad, and 3 siblings, were all brought in to serve as stand-ins for a crowd scene filmed. Only her father and a sliver of her sister ended up making it into the final cut. Peterson still laughs at that, since her dad, she said, was pretty much recruited on the spot while coming to pick up the members of the family after shooting. They just sort of threw him into it and were like, go over there and telling him where to walk. Peterson, who now lives in Massachusetts, said in a recent phone interview with The Record, they tracked these people down, man. This was a big deal. BFD. Peterson, who was 16 at the time, recalls being hit on by Rob. Peterson, who was 16 at the time, recalls being paid about $75 a day as an extra. Harold George, on the other hand, got a lot more screen time, unexpectedly being cast as a photo double for Rob Lowe. 21 and a senior at Flagler College in 1987, George and several other theater majors showed up at the advertised open casting. His buddies called attention to the fact that not only was he wearing the same kind of trousers and a white shirt as Lowe, but also bore a striking resemblance to the actor, especially while wearing glasses. They weren't the only ones who noticed. Suddenly, this guy, who I later found out was a casting director, comes up to me and says, "How tall are you?" Recalled George, now the extension service manager for the St. John's County Public Library System. George was hired on the spot, going on to step in for Lowe during filler shots, showing the back of Lowe or the actor from a distance in scenes such as him driving a truck or getting into a taxi. Off-camera, local residents had encounters with some of the major players in the film as well. Debbie King, who now lives in North Carolina, again, they tracked this woman down, remembers how, as a 20-year-old waitress, she served Rob Lowe breakfast at the hotel that's now the Holiday Inn on Ponce de Leon Boulevard, where most of the film crew was staying. The actor, she said, openly flirted with her. Coincidentally, King said she ran into Lowe at a social club in St. Augustine, at one time called the Passport Lounge. You can picture that, right? In the 80s, something called the Passport Lounge,
absolutely
just neon. There, King said Lowe asked her to dance, which she did. She did not, however, agree to go out with him, she said, knowing he already had a girlfriend. Good on you, Debbie. The 80s heartthrob, in fact, caused quite a sensation wherever he went around town, with newspaper reporters at the time describing how crowds of young girls who had the Martin Luther King holiday off from school in January descended upon the streets of St. Augustine to see the actor in person. Illegally Yours was supposed to take place around Christmas, and the weather, so bitterly cold, according to George, played along. So this is a bit of contention. We get into the episode. This qualifies as a Christmas movie. Julio was a bit aghast at this. George recalled how the Christmas decorations strung up by the crew across downtown were left in place for months after, leaving many tourists to wonder what time of year it was. The movie was eventually released on May 13th of 1988, and distributors paid homage to St. Augustine by sponsoring a free screening of it in town. That's cool. The film was considered a critical and commercial failure, but George and others who still smile recalling the 15 minutes of fame Illegally Yours provided them hold a soft spot in their hearts for it. It's really a cool time capsule of St. Augustine in 1987, said George. And then they go on to list a couple of the other movies that were filmed in St. Augustine, which also includes Ed TV, which I was not aware of.
A little better received, I think, at TV than Illegally Yours.
Doesn't hold up as well as Illegally Yours, though. Ed TV, you watch, and it's like, you show that to like a 20-year-old kid, they're going to be like, what? Like, yeah, this is YouTube. And, back then, though, the idea of it was like mind-blowing. But
Woody Harrelson invents social media.
That article cost me 25 cents to provide to the episode, so putting money back into the podcast. But that was really fun. That was a good read.
25 cents well spent. It made more to endear me to the movie than the movie itself did. So
honestly, that was my takeaway. That like, okay, I'm not going to be too mean about this movie because it meant something to some small town folk.
Yeah, it's awesome.
There's as much as the civil rights movement to these people.
Apparently, not a whole lot going on in St. Augustine. There's a really funny David Mamet movie called State and Maine that it's basically that they go to make a movie in a small town. Alec Baldwin plays the big star, so he would be Rob Lowe. Philip Seymour Hoffman is the writer. William H. Macy is the director, and David Paymer is the producer. It's all-star cast.
Star of No Holds Barred, David Paymer.
Yes. I'm trying to remember. I don't know.
There's also the great Simpsons episode where they try to film the Radioactive Man movie in Springfield, and the joke is like the mayor and the local government just keep finding new taxes to charge them so they can just extort them for money.
It's State of Maine is a little more wholesome. I'm trying to remember who I think Julia Stiles plays the townsperson that gets involved with Alec Baldwin, and there's somebody that plays.
So this was like late 90s, early 2000s, I'm assuming, if Julia Stiles is in it.
Yes, it was before. It was when she was still like, I guess, a teen star or.
SJP's in it too.
Is she? Yes. Okay, so she's the actress. Baldwin is the male star of the movie that they're making, and then Sarah Jessica Parker is the main actress. And one of the things is that she's a big star, and there's a scene that requires for her to be nude in the movie that they're making, and she has second thoughts about it. She doesn't want to do it, so they have to fly in like the producer David Paymer to talk about it with her, and it's like a big deal. It's really funny. I remember she's funny in it. And what I was trying to remember is who's the townsperson that has a romance with Philip Seymour Hoffman. And I don't think it's an actress I'm very familiar with, because I can't picture her. But anyway, it's a funny movie. So if you were tickled by that article and you want to watch a movie that's about that, State and Maine. I'm sure it's streaming somewhere. All-star cast. David Mamet's a good writer.
And if you're still listening to this and you've never watched Illegally Yours and you're still on the fence, if you do end up watching it, just know it meant a lot to Debbie King and the folks of 1987 St. Augustine.
It's the truth. Now, Alex, moving on from Illegally Yours, coming up next, I need to look it up because we're recording so far in advance that it's it can get confusing at times. Okay, so we go from one obscure Peter Bogdanovich movie to one obscure PJ Hogan movie. Our next PJ party is on the movie Unconditional Love. We already recorded that episode. We'll go into detail then, but just so you know, you can rent it somewhere. It's I don't know if it's PJ Hogan's Illegally Yours, but it's definitely, there are some similarities as far as how it was treated.
It's something.
It's definitely, it's a lot of things.
Yes.
It's
Kathy Bates wielding a gun.
Yes, Kathy Bates, the return of Rupert Everett, promised very recently in My Best Friend's Wedding, and Dan Aykroyd comes back. It's a lot of
Barry
Manilow making his Contrarians debut, I think. A lot of good stuff in there. Does it mesh together? Well, that's the point. But yeah, watch Illegally Yours if you want to. No, you can just listen to our episodes. Watch Unconditional Love. Get ready for the next one. And we'll be here soon again. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll see you soon.